Do you have questions about any aspect of your home, cottage, or cabin water filtration? You know, maybe you've got that one burning question about how something works, how to install, how to maintain, or anything at all about water filtration. Well, this live stream is for you. I'm going to be answering all of your questions starting right now. And like I say, it all starts right now. Hi, I'm Gary the Water Guy, and I simplify water filtration to help you conquer crappy water for your family. This event is perfect for you if you're thinking about maintaining or improving or investing in water filtration for your family. I'll be answering all of your questions live here on YouTube and during this live stream. And during this live stream, I'll also be sharing with you a bunch of my tips and tricks from the pros to make maintaining your water filtration or even choosing your water filtration system better for you and for your family. And your questions about water filtration will help me guide this this live stream toward what you really want to talk about. This live stream is really for you, and so I need your questions to find out what you're interested in, because often the question that you ask is the same questions that someone else wants to ask or just hasn't thought of, or maybe it's just too shy to ask. Believe me, you don't have to be shy here. There's only a few of us here, but I'd love to answer all of your questions. And I definitely encourage you to watch this live stream to the end, because throughout we'll be talking about all different aspects of water filtration, everything from water softeners, tannin filters, iron and sulfur filters, reverse osmosis drinking water systems, whole house chemical removal systems like to remove chlorine and chloramines from your city water. But we'll also be talking about UV disinfection for you folks that are on well water or draw your water from a lake or any other surface water source. Now, whether you're watching this live or watching the replay, welcome. Of course, the advantage of watching it live is that you can pose your questions right here. But of course, the advantage of having the replay available is anything that we talk about during this live stream, you can always check it out at some time in the future and to remind yourself of what exactly Gary was talking about at that time. And I have links in the description down below. Often throughout this live stream, you'll see me indicating like that, and that means there's links in the description down below. Now, we may very well be covering topics that I don't have links in the description down below for yet, and but that's no problem, because just ask me some aspect of what you're looking for, and then put a comment down below. And I will put a link in there to lead you to whatever information you have. And so you'll be asking your questions at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. I see a bunch of you are already asking questions, and that's great. I really appreciate that. And so let me do this here first. All right, so these are some of the questions that I posed ahead of time, you know, in terms of to give you guys some ideas of what you might like to ask questions about. So these are some of the categories: tips and tricks from the pro, water filtration maintenance, how to install, what system do I need, and how does it work. So definitely encourage you to think along those lines when you're thinking about putting together your questions. And let me just do this here. And so I posed this question on my YouTube community channel of my YouTube channel to get some information ahead of time what you folks might be interested in. And 41% were interested in what system do I need. 21 and 24% were looking for tips and tricks and talking about maintenance, how to install, and how does it work is on the lower end of the scale. So I won't spend too much time on that unless during this live stream you ask me those questions specifically, and then I'd be happy to address all of those. And of course on the bottom right, I should mention too that, let me just flip over to this. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you also see a poll that's happening right now. And again, this is for me to gauge information. So I see right now we've got 9 votes. Keep those votes going in there. And tips and tricks from the pro seem to be the biggest category. So I'll really try to narrow in on that. But any questions you ask, don't worry, definitely we'll get to them throughout this live stream. And so people often ask me, how do you contact us? And right here, that's how you contact us. info@watereStore.com. That's the best way to contact us, whether you're contacting us from Canada or from the US. And so I definitely encourage you to do that. Let me just fix this here, right there. All right, great. So we have some questions. I'll start answering some of those questions, and then we'll get on with some more stuff, and then we'll answer some more. So let's see what we got here so far. And by the way, when you ask a question, what'll happen is they'll flash on the screen like this, and then I'll answer the question. And if we need more time, I may have to push the button again to get it onto the screen for you. But anyway, oh boy, we got lots of questions. Thanks. I really appreciate that. So the first one is from McIrvin Rosario. Hello, Gary. I know there's more to this one here, so we'll keep it coming here. And I have a very complex question to ask. I bought a house recently and have very little knowledge about water filtration. But I have learned a lot watching your videos. Well, that's great. That's the whole point of the videos, to help folks just like you. And it goes on to say, my question is right here. Can I swap the electronics between one filter to the other, since the sulfur filter has a meter, but the salt filter doesn't? I would like to add the salt filter being metered to save the salt. Great question. And the answer is yes. There's a little bit more to it than just that, though. And so we'll grab Frankenstein over here, and so I can show you what I mean. So now, it would have to be, both systems would have to be the same brand. Ideally, it would be a clack valve like this one here. You can identify a clack valve by these red bypass handles here, and the clack ones are shaped like an arrow. So you know if you have that, it's definitely a clack valve. So to make the change on a clack valve is quite simple, but you need to do a little bit more than what you said. So you're right, you do need to change the electronics. You can flip this off and change the circuit board. It's very straightforward, but you'd also have to remove the meter. Where's the meter? You see this gray cable on the side here? That's hooked up to the meter. So the meter's inside here. There it is. The meter's inside here, so you have to pull that out and switch that over. But assuming all that's in place, it's the same brand, and you can switch those out. You can definitely do that, and I've got a great programming. You'd have to reprogram it, of course. You'd have to reprogram both of them, of course. But you could easily do that, and you're right, that would be great, because the iron sulfur filter needs to regenerate every 3 days. The water softener would regenerate based on usage, and then you could go on from there. But yeah, great question, and absolutely, you can do that, no problem at all. And but just remind me in the comments down below to put a link into that video for the programming. And, oh, that's me again. Sorry about that. Keith. Hi, Gary. I have a well system and a softener. The water pressure is okay, but I'd like to get more. Any hints? Yeah, you and me both, I'll be honest with you. Same story at my house. I don't have the greatest pressure and the greatest flow. So, two things to differentiate between pressure and flow. So pressure is how hard the water is exerting on a surface. Flow is how much water you can get through in a given period of time. So if your concern is that you're standing in the shower and the water just doesn't come out very fast, that's flow. How many gallons per minute you can get through that shower head. So first of all, you need to be able to check that your well pump can handle more flow. So that would be, you either have to have your well report, or you'd have to have a well guy come out and check your well to find out what the flow is. Because obviously you can't have more water flowing out of the well than the well's ability to flow water back into the well. So that's the first thing you need to check. The second thing you need to check is that you've got enough flow from your pump, that it can give that. The third thing you need to check is the size of your plumbing. So when your plumbing comes into your pressure tank, leaves the pressure tank, goes to your water filtration equipment. So it should be, ideally, it should be 3/4 of an inch all the way till it gets to where it splits to hot and cold. That would maximize your flow. So those are the three things you need to check. Like I say, the well's ability to produce more gallons per minute, the pump's ability to produce more gallons per minute, and that your plumbing can handle that. Now, having said all that, the well guy really is going to be your biggest ally here, because he's going to be able to tell you if you can get more water into the well, and if your pump, you'll have to put in a bigger pump. If you can put in a bigger pump, that it can fuel all that. Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, but quite honestly, it's pretty rare. Like at my house, I'd have to change the well pump, and it's a drilled well, 250 feet deep, so it would be quite costly. We only have 2 bathrooms, so because of that, it's not something of urgency, but when it does come time to replace that pump, I'm definitely going to spend the extra bucks and put in a bigger one. So I feel your pain, Keith. Thanks for the question. David Smith, I have an iron buster tank between the acid neutralizer and water softener tanks. The flow rate on the iron buster shows 0, while the other tanks are indicating flow rate during water usage. Probably because it doesn't have a meter. And so it's the same at my house. So I'm on a well. I've got I've got all the problems, right? I've got iron, I've got bacteria, I've got sulfur, I've got hard water, all that stuff. So my iron filter, because it regenerates every 3 days, doesn't have a flow meter on it. So, and again, if it's a clack, look for this gray wire here. If it doesn't have this gray wire here, that would tell you that it doesn't have a flow meter, and you're never going to check flow. Because again, it's not necessary. It needs to regenerate every 3 days. Doesn't matter how much water you use. So because of that, it's not mandatory. And great. And thanks for those questions, folks. Keep them coming. Larry Bailey. Welcome, Larry. I'm on a well here in Ohio, and I have a Boss Pro 380 and wondering about the Hume iron softeners. Iron system, sorry. Are they also softeners, or do they work in conjunction with a softener? Great question. No, they're standalone units. So we have Hume iron and sulfur filters. That's what Frankenstein is dressed up as here. And the reason I call him Frankenstein, because this guy's made up of all leftover parts from different jobs that we've done, and I just use them for live streams and that. He doesn't have any media inside. That's why he's relatively light for me to fool around with. But so because of that, sorry, I lost my spot here. Oh yes, sorry. You would still keep your water softener, but you would put the iron filter before it. So you would have the iron filter, and if you have sulfur, it would get rid of that too. It does the heavy lifting before it gets to the water softener. Now, having said that, if you whatever iron you have in your water softener, you have to compensate for that in the settings. So what you can probably do is set the hardness level lower on your water softener, and it'll use less salt because of that. So, but yeah, you still need both pieces of equipment, unfortunately. But thanks for the question, Larry. And we've got John. Hi, Gary. Stuck on whether to get a Luminor Glacier GUV 4S versus 5S. I see the 5S has a display versus a light. Is the display not very useful unless you buy the expansion modules? Yeah, I get the question, you know, and what Larry's asking about is this baby here. I love this thing. It's a relatively new product, and why I like it so much is if you're looking to disinfect the water in your home, you're drinking water only, you don't care about the shower and that kind of thing, and you've got a reverse osmosis system, this is a great thing that you can add on after the reverse osmosis drinking water system before the water goes up to the faucet. So this is the one I preview in the video. It's not only about the modules, it gives you a lot of great information that the smaller model doesn't. Like when you plug this in, it'll show that you got 5,000 hours left. So I hooked this up in my house, and you probably saw that in the video. And but it tells you all kinds of great information. It tells you how many times it was turned on and off. It tells you how many hours you have remaining. So one of the things that's neat about this ultraviolet system is that it has a flow meter inside. So as you run the water, it turns itself on and then disinfects the water, and then when the water flow stops, it stays on for 10 seconds to fully disinfect all the water that's inside here, and then it shuts itself off. So very little hydro usage. But this little baby here, I figured in my house it would last probably somewhere around 20 to 25 years in terms of normal everyday use. And remember, as opposed to a whole house UV system or just the small non-LED type UV systems that use the mercury lamps, you don't have to change the lamp in this thing. So if you know, so for what you pay for this system, yeah, it's a little bit more than those ones that use the traditional type of UV lamps, but because you won't have to change the lamp in this, and of course the extra work and that kind of thing, and this thing lasting 20, 25 years, it's definitely a great choice. You know, for the few extra bucks, I'd go for it. But if it's something you're not really interested in at all, the 4S will definitely do the job. It's really one of those things you have to check out for yourself. I thought it was really cool. If you're going to put it somewhere that you can kind of look at it from time to time, be a great little thing to show some of your friends at a party or something like that. But either one will work. Chris. Hi, Chris. What determines the correct size color injector for a clock valve softener and FOC filter? Is it just the media tank size? Yeah, that's exactly it. And if you look at a full clack manual, and we have a full clack manual on our website, and in case anybody's wondering, where's our website, is right here. So we've got two, waterestore.com in the US, waterestore.ca in Canada. We do offer free shipping and discount pricing. But anyway, if you go to our websites and you check out just search for any water softener. I usually plug into the search term at the top 30,000 because that goes to our 30,000 grain water softener. And you scroll down where it says manuals, click the manual and scroll down there. It'll say what size tank is for what size injector. But that's what determines it. So, and I don't mess with it. I know some guys are out there say, well, you know, I take the blue one and I substitute a white one for this reason and all that other kind of stuff. You know, the engineers that put these things together are a whole lot smarter than I am. And so because of that, I just go by their recommendations and go on from there. But yeah, that's exactly what determines it, is the size of the tank and the media that's inside. You know, that makes a difference too. But thanks for that question, John. Oh, sorry, that was Chris. Cancel here. Empire David, should I put a water filter before or after my water softener with city water? So that's a really great question. Thank you for that. So if you're going to put a water filter on to remove the chlorine from the water, definitely put it on before the water softener. Actually, even if you're going to put one on to remove the sediment from your water, put it on before the water softener on city water. Because the worst thing for water softener is chlorine, believe it or not. So because of that, if you put a carbon filter on before the water softener, it'll not only remove the chlorine for your family, for bathing and all those other kinds of things, but it will also remove the chlorine and keep it from getting into the water softener, which will make the water softener last a whole lot longer. And I've seen some water softeners die, like in really extreme situations where the city water was really high at like 10, 12 years. But without the chlorine in there, they'll easily last 25. So it's cheap insurance. It's a good idea. I definitely encourage you to do that. And Jeff, what causes green residue forming on fixtures if the house has a water softener and an upstream GAC carbon filter? I love your videos and appreciate you sharing your knowledge. Happy to do it, Jeff. As long as you guys keep watching, I'll keep making them. It's reacting with the plumbing. So you probably have high pH or something like that. The water's somewhat acidic and it's reacting with the copper. And that's what will give you that green water, sometimes blue water too, and that kind of thing. But it's a chemical reaction between, like I say, the high pH, making the water acidic, and the copper pipes. John D. got another question. You can ask as many questions as you like. Iron bacteria. 3 years ago, I used a BART test to check levels. I think there's more to this question. Oh, you're just asking about how to check the levels of iron bacteria? Yeah, so when it comes to iron bacteria, so first of all, what is iron bacteria for those folks that don't know? It's a slime in the water, or if you see a bit of a shimmer on top of the water, kind of looks like gas on the water, something like that, that can very well be iron bacteria. Now, in very, very low levels, it's a bit of a nuisance, but not too bad. But when the levels get higher and you start to see slime in the toilets and build up in the toilet tanks, and it causes all other kinds of grief for the water-using appliances in your home, then it becomes a problem. When it comes for testing for iron bacteria, I definitely let the labs do it. We don't do iron bacteria tests here. How do you get rid of iron bacteria? You can't use an air over media iron sulfur filter to get rid of iron bacteria. It'll actually start to clog up inside here. What you need to do, you need to use a chemical injection system, basically a chlorine injection system, where you inject chlorine into the water, you give it contact time, usually 10 minutes or so, and then you remove the stuff that's been oxidized out by the chlorine, trap it, remove the chlorine, and then it goes on to the whole house. But thanks for that question. And sorry, right here. Zilfton 1. What are your thoughts on solar-powered clock systems? Gets a lot of sun, but I've heard that these systems sometimes don't work overtime. You know, if I recall, I've only ever seen one of these once. So basically it's a solar panel on here. But my understanding was that it's only for the power cell backup. I'm not really sure that it runs the valve totally. I mean, it definitely could, because now that I think about it, it was a great question, by the way, because the motor inside here is only 12 volts. Now, I know you plug it into 110 and it has a transformer that steps it down and all that other jazz, but it is a 12-volt motor in here. So there should be no reason why, because these things use very, very little power. That's the other side of the whole thing, right? Is if you're on a solar home, and as long as you got 110, you can plug these in, because these things use very little power. Like when they're in standby, like when they're not regenerating, all they really do is the time display. That's all that's there. So there's like virtually no power. It's just to illuminate the LED that shows you the time. But when it's going through its backwash cycle, again, the power is coming from the pump. It's not coming from in here. So the only time it uses power then is when it's changing cycles, when the motor's whirring to change cycles. So yeah, I can definitely see it would work. I've never used one myself. Like I say, it's one of those things that sounds like a good idea, but I'm not really sure how useful it would really be, and I'm not sure how much extra they charge for it, and I'm not sure how finicky it would be. So, but great question. Thanks for asking that. And Michael. Welcome, Michael. Hi, Gary. Thanks for these videos. You're very welcome. They're great. I have a rental water softener iron filter with a 10 by 54 that I'm trying to rebuild for myself. Can I get a pair of 12 by 52 or 54 tanks locally? I don't know. You'd have to check with whoever sells water filtration equipment. Plumbing supply place should be able to get you just empty tanks, I would think. So I would check with them. I mean, if you're stuck, send us an email. I had my email address up there earlier, right? Mail? No? Sorry, got lost in my things here. Anyway, if you're going to send us an email, just send it here, info@waterestore.com, whether you're in Canada or the US, and we can definitely help you out. With that, like I say, we can, I don't know where you're located, we can ship it to you. The only problem with shipping, of course, is we're shipping an empty tank, so the shipping cost is usually about the same as it would be for a full tank, so it ain't cheap. But yeah, check it out. And what are the downsides of using a larger resin tank? There really aren't any downsides as long as you put the right amount of resin in. Okay, so what I mean by that, let's say a 30,000 grain water softener typically uses a 9 by 48 inch tank. But if you've got a 10 by 54 inch tank and you want to use that for that 30,000 grain water softener, which is 1 cubic foot of resin, by the way, you would just put the 1 cubic foot of resin in there. You could put up to 1.5 cubic feet of resin, but if that's too big of a water softener for you, then the problem there is going to be that it's not going to regenerate often enough, and you may have problems with the media inside. You may get some channeling and that kind of thing, and it would cause problems that way. But theoretically and generally speaking, it shouldn't be any problem by using an oversized tank that's slightly oversized, like, you know, half a size oversized or something like that. I've never done it myself, but I can't see why it would be a problem. But thanks for the question. That was great. And David, starting to see iron staining on plumbing too. David, that was a continuation question, wasn't it? And sorry, David, I lost the context of that question. Starting to see staining on plumbing too. Oh, I know what you were asking about, the water softener, right? Got it. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, yeah. If you've got a water softener, the water softener only gets rid of up to 1 part per million of iron, and with the Water Boss or Aquamaster water softeners, that's even stretching it at that. So, whenever we specify someone wants a high efficiency water softener like an Aquamaster or Water Boss, okay, and they've got any iron at all, we always put in an iron filter before it, because what will happen is you compromise the high efficiency aspect of that Water Boss water softener. So if you've got iron in the Water Boss, it should be regenerating every 3 or 4 days, whether you use up its capacity or not. If you remove the iron with an iron filter first and then have the Water Boss, then it can go to being a metered water softener, and now you might not need to regenerate for every 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 or even 12 days before you use up its capacity, so you'd use a whole lot less salt. And Chris, Does a clack FOC filter have a volume cap per regen before sulfur streak will leak through, similar to a metered softener? I'm finding better performance with daily FOC regen at 2.4 parts per million hydrogen sulfide. Yeah, 2.4 parts per million hydrogen sulfide is high. And you're right. You know, I mean, these things ship from the factory, set up for every 3 days. You know, there's a lot of factory defaults, and I generally recommend go with the factory defaults until it's a problem, until it's not doing the job. And I guess that's what you found. So you're regenerating it every day. So when it regenerates, it also rebuilds that air cap at the bottom. So you're putting in fresh air every 3 days. That 2.4 parts per million, that is super high. So so if that's doing the job for you, that's great. There's no problem with doing it more often than not often enough. So yeah, if that works for you, no problems at all. Keep doing it. And Perono 666. Hello, Gary. Happy to see you live. Happy to see you too. Yeah, I know I can't see you, but it seems like the right thing to say. I have a problem with a softener which loses resin. I found resin in a filter after the water softener. What should I check? Thanks in advance. Bad news. If it's just a little bit of resin, don't worry about it. So it could be that some of the smaller beads of resin are starting to break down and they're leaking through. So there's a cone at the top here that holds the resin in. And I don't have one here right now, but it's a cone that looks like this, and it has vertical slits all the way around it, very fine slits, and they keep the resin out. Now sometimes what will happen is the resin beads will get very, very small. They'll start to break down a little bit and they'll start to leak through. Now if you're getting like a tablespoonful or a couple tablespoonfuls, no big deal. If you get so much of it, it's starting to clog the aerators in the washing machine or filters downstream or something like that. What's happened is that either that cone at the top or the riser tube that goes down through the middle that also has a cone at the bottom has cracked. And resin's leaking out. So the problem now is you have to rebed the whole, you have to basically rebuild the whole tank. Now I do have a great YouTube video about that. If you're not sure where to find it, just add it in the comments down below and I'll put a link to it you know, tomorrow or when I get a chance so that you can check that out. But unfortunately that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to unscrew the valve, dump out the media, and then replace that cone at the top, the riser tube, and the cone at the bottom. But the good news is that at least you'll have new media and you'll be fine to go for a number of years. Now, if the water softener is 20 years old or something like that, you may want to rethink that and devote that money that you were spending on rebuilding the tank toward a new water softener. But that's totally up to you. And I have John D. Thoughts on zeolite media when you have iron bacteria? I'm using a water right sanitizer. Oh, water right, which is basically a clack softener with chlorine generator. Using zeolite. It's okay, not great. You know, John, I was just going to ask, well, how do you find it? And you said, it's okay, not great. Exactly. I've come across these a few times. I've been offered to sell them. I refuse to sell them because it's a mediocre product at best. I mean, if you've got very little sulfur, very little iron bacteria, very little iron, then it might be okay. But you always have to keep using the solar salt. You can't use any salt that has any res care or cleaner in it. Any of those kinds. They're very finicky. They don't work very well. And I remember years ago I had a customer that had one of these. Didn't buy it from me, but I guess whoever he bought it from gave up on the customer. But anyway, I went out to see the customer and I talked to them about it and I tried to get some better. So I phoned the manufacturer and I kind of explained the situation to him. And basically the tech guy said, well, Gary, let me tell you the truth. These things don't work really well anyway. The guy really needs a proper system to get rid of the iron. So that's what it is. But generally speaking, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, iron bacteria really need a chemical injection system. Chlorine injection system, that's the way to deal with it. Any of these other kinds of systems like our FOBs, FOCs, FOKs, or that system, it ain't going to work. That's the situation. But thanks for the question. That was great. Keith L. I also have an RO system. It's an all-in-one. It starts off very slow, then a minute or two it kicks in. Would like to know why. Starts off very slow. When you say starts off very slow, do you mean when you open up the faucet, the water comes out slow, and then all of a sudden it comes out quickly? Or do you mean that when you emptied up the tank, when it starts to refill the tank, it starts off slow and then it comes in quickly? Anyway, if you give me a little bit more information about that, we'll get to you. Arthur, want to give you a shout out. Hey, good to hear from you, Arthur. I live in Florida well system, and you got me online with your expertise. Oh, great to hear. Thanks again for all your advice and knowledge. Happy to do it. That's what we're here for. I've got this library of 460 YouTube videos now. Lots of great information for you out there. They're all free. They're not monetized. So the information's there. Definitely encourage you to check it out. And like I say, if you're looking for any parts or any components or any new equipment, definitely check out our websites, waterestore.com in the US, waterestore.ca in Canada. Like I always say, we offer free shipping and discount pricing. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. All right, great. Keep those questions coming. Arthur, it's been 2 years since purchasing my water softener. How do I know when the resin inside is deteriorating? I've seen softener cleaners, but very leery. Yeah, so, it depends on how much iron you have in your water. If you don't have any iron in your water softener, really you're looking at 5 to 6 years before you'd have to use any cleaner. And when you do, we recommend a product here called ResCare. I mean, our service guys carry it in their vehicles with them all the time. When we do if we haven't been to the house for a few years, then we'll always add some ResCare to the water softener to clean up the resin and keep it going. I've seen some water softeners, like in rental homes and things like that, where the tenants didn't put salt in it, had iron, they just let them go. And I've seen them sometimes sit 2 or 3 years. They should have been dead. Like they should have actually been dead. But we put ResCare in. We sometimes put it in 2 or 3 times in a row. We brought them back and we got another bunch of years out of it. So it's a good product, ResCare, resin cleaner. But after a year or two, I wouldn't bother. Wait for 5 or 6 years, unless you have quite a bit of iron in your water. Then I would use some. But thanks for the question. I appreciate it. Rocco Rosso. Sorry about the pronunciations, guys, but I'm trying my best. New to your channel, new to water systems. What are the choices for tannin filters? Oh, great question. So there are a few choices, actually. A couple bad ones and one good one, but unfortunately the good one is the expensive one, right? So you can go with something like this. So this is actually a tannin filter. So if you're in a scenario where you just want to remove the tannins from maybe the cold water going to your kitchen sink, this might be a good choice. Now, I'm going to warn you, this is only going to give you about 75 gallons of capacity, and this filter is a lot more expensive than you think. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but it's probably something like $80 to $100 or something like that. So that's very expensive. Now, you can get bigger versions of this filter. In fact, you can get a 20-inch Big Blue, so it's 20 inches long. This is 10, and it's 4.5 inches in diameter. But even that filter, which is really expensive, maybe like $250 or $300, is only good for 750 gallons. Let me repeat that, 750 gallons, which isn't going to last very long. So, so the best way to do it is with a proper whole house tannin filter. Looks kind of like this, looks like a water softener, works like a water softener, uses salt like a water softener, although it uses a lot more salt than a water softener, but it's a lot more money too. You're talking the $200 to $2,500 range. And but they work, and they work really, really well. They do use 3 40-pound bags of salt per month, 3 times 40, 120 pounds of salt per month to run them, but they work really well. We've been installing them for over 20 years here in our local market. We've got a lot of areas with tannins, and we've had such great success. And to date, the ones we installed over 20 years ago I've never replaced a tannin filter yet. So, so they work really well, cost a lot of money, cost a lot of salt to keep up, but they work. So, but if you're looking for a link to a tannin filter, again, just add it in the comments down below. I can put a link in, and you can check it out. And, but thanks for the question, Rocco. Oh, we got another in here. David Smith. Recently replaced the seal pack and piston in my clack tank. When closing it back up, are there things I need to be concerned with? Want to make sure it's going back into the correct position. This valve is so smart, it figures it out by itself. And when you took, when you take this off behind here, I'm not going to do it right now, but when you take this off back here, you'll see a tan colored sort of a unit about this big. And in there it has 3 little wheels in it, 3 little gears that have Teflon tape on them and markings on there. And that's what determines, there's an eye on the back of this circuit board. That eye looks onto those gears, and from there it can tell where it's at. So all you need to do is put it back together, hook up the motor and everything else, the meter if you have it, and then plug it into the power. It'll figure out where to go back, and you're good to go. Super smart, this thing. Great question, though. Thanks for that. And Vlad, what are your thoughts on Vortec mid-plate tanks for city water, carbon resin? So what Vlad's asking about here is water softener with a mixed bed tank, resin, and carbon. I haven't seen a lot of good stuff happen with them. And what happens typically is the carbon part wears out long before the resin does. In fact, the water softener I bought 25 years ago, I bought one of those. And the problem was, within 4 years, I had to replace all the resin and all the media inside here because the carbon part was worn out. The resin was fine, but the carbon part wasn't. So that's the problem I have with those now. Now, the ones I've seen, the Water Boss ones and the Aquamaster ones, they have KDF media in with the carbon. And because of that, now KDF media is brutally expensive, but anyway, because of that, it seems to make the carbon last a good 15 to 20 years. Now, I've never tried that in a different kind of a water softener, like our Hume water softeners, so I don't know how well that would work. I don't think, for some reason, I don't think very well, because the company that manufactures these for us didn't recommend it. And usually when the engineers don't recommend something, I listen. So it may work. I'd just be concerned how long the carbon part's going to last on you. That's the concern. If I was in city water, I would go with a Hume, one of our Hume water softeners, the Klackfeld water softeners, but before it, I'd put an automatic backwashing carbon filter or a catalytic carbon filter if I had chloramines in my water to get rid of that before it goes to the water softener going from there. Those two things will last you 20 to 25 years, no problem, virtually no maintenance, and that's how I would spend my money. If the upcharge for that carbon part is more than a few $100s, I would definitely put that toward the automatic backwashing carbon filter. But thanks for the question. That was great. Gary, I have a North Star water conditioning system. The model number is, I have 2 PVC pipes in the back that goes from the system to the wall of my home. Is there more to this question? Nope. Oh, I see. Yeah, sorry, there is more to this question. Right. Pardon me. The pipe on the left is leaking where it curves from the system to the wall. I believe it's leaking from the sweat adapter. Just want to know, is this an easy fix and how to order parts for this? You'd have to talk to the North Star people. I don't sell North Star water softeners or water filtration equipment. I've had a little bit to do with them, not a lot. Brutally honest, not my favorite system. But if you contact them, you should be able to get parts, model number, serial number. You're on the right track with that information. And usually they have a 1-800 number. And if you still have your manual, if you don't have your manual, just about every manual is available online. I don't think I have a North Star one, no, to be honest. But I'm sure you can find it. And just give them the part number. And now the parts are fairly easy to swap out on those. So it shouldn't be a big deal to fix that up. But I wouldn't patch it. Okay, because you just know it's going to leak at the most inopportune time. So definitely repair it with a proper part. If you can't get the proper part, buy a new water softener. Because the last thing you want to do is patch it and, like I say, go away for the weekend or go away for a week or a month or whatever, and it bursts while you're gone and floods your basement. And now you got an insurance claim, and yeah, you don't want that. David Smith. Love your videos, thanks. Thanks for the comment, David. I really appreciate it. And whoop, Mike. Oh, Mike Foodie. Sorry about that, Mike. Where'd you go? Here. I had a well dug to 120-foot depth and ended up hitting salt water. Oh, sorry to hear. Are there any ways of desalinating beside the high cost of a home desalination system? So probably what you're referring to as a home desalination system is a whole house reverse osmosis system. So a whole house reverse osmosis system is, we sell them, okay? We install them. They're very complex. So basically what happens is reverse osmosis, water being forced through a membrane. The good water goes through the membrane, the low density water, the high density water with the salt in it gets flushed to the drain. That keeps the membrane clean, and you go on from there. Now the only problem when it's a whole house system is you have to do that. So first of all, you have to pre-treat the water. So if the water's hard, you have to have a water softener. If the water's got iron, you have to have an iron filter. You have to make sure the water's pre-treated. You have to get rid of the chlorine before the reverse osmosis. Then it goes through the reverse osmosis system. Then it gets stored in a big tank because it does this very slowly. Okay, and then from the tank you have to repressurize it with another pump and then pump it to your whole house. So these systems are very expensive. You know, with all the parts involved to make them work properly, they can easily be $10, $12, $14,000, something like that. They take up a lot of space. And the thing you got to realize, you're going to use a whole lot more water. And what I mean by that is for every gallon of water you use, it's usually about 1.5 gallons of water goes to the drain. So now all of a sudden you've got, for every gallon that you used before, now you've got 2.5 gallons of water that's being used. So that water, what are you going to do with the wastewater? It can't go into your septic system because it would flood it. So now you have to put in a dry well to run it in there. So there's a lot of negatives of those systems. Like I say, we handle them, we sell them, we install them. But, you know, unless locally you've got a better source of getting rid of the sodium, it's probably going to be your only choice. So, and everything has a limit. So I don't know what the total dissolved solids, parts per million you have of the sodium in your water. You know, if you could get by with just a drinking water system, but then you're going to have corrosion on your pipes and that kind of thing. So, so yeah, that's sort of the long and the short of it. You can, if you have a water analysis, you can always email it to us. And what is our email here? Again, right here. info@waterestore.com, Canada or the US, and that's where you can find, you can email us your water analysis, and from there we can make some recommendations. But it ain't going to be cheap, sorry to say. Where do we send a water sample to a lab for detailed analysis? Yeah, you know, I haven't talked about it yet. I haven't shared with you what I've been doing for the last week or so, but because I've had so many great questions here and I want to keep the momentum going. But I met with, I was at the convention last week, Water Quality Association convention. I met with two companies that are offering water analysis. So basically they have kits, they send them to you, you do your water, you fill up the water bottles, you send it back to them, and then they do an analysis. I'm going to do a video on this shortly. But anyway, you'd have to look locally to find some place. Any large center, any city or whatever would have it. So you'd contact them, and like I say, they would send you a kit. But I'm sure if you do a search online for water analysis or home water test or something like that, I'm sure you'll find something. So I'm sorry I don't have more information just yet, but I will. Susan, you missed my question. Oh, sorry, Susan. I've had a lot of questions here today. And sorry, Susan, I don't have it. So if you want to put it through again. Michael says Lamont. Michael Lamont, thank you. Oh, you're very welcome, Michael. And I've got another question here from Chris. Chris, can you think of any circumstances? Whoop, that was a quick one. Less than equal to 3 parts per million hydrogen sulfide, very low iron, manganese, would necessitate annual media replacement for an FOC filter. Well, you answered your own question. The problem is when you get high hydrogen sulfide, like 3 parts per million, less than or equal to, 3 parts per million, that would be it. Now, you don't have to replace the media as a preventative maintenance thing, and once a year does sound like a lot to me. I would let it go. Like, you're not going to harm anything by using it. So, they're recommending once a year. Well, I can see where you're skeptical. So try it. Try it for a year and a half. Try it for a year and 3/4. Try it for 2 years and see what it's like. If you're not getting that smell, you don't have to worry about it. Just keep on going, because your iron content isn't that high. Your manganese content isn't that high. So yeah, I would just keep on going. And best gravity filter. Depends what you want to filter out, but I don't do much with gravity filters, to be honest. All the filtration we work with are pressurized, with a pressurized water system. So I don't know. I'm sorry. Tom, do you have an opinion on the use of template-assisted crystallization to reduce scaling? I don't, Tom. And I haven't. I've heard of this. I've read a little bit about it, and again, I haven't had any experience with it, so I can't say it works or it doesn't work. I'm skeptical from what I've read about it. But I haven't taken the time to investigate it myself. So I would really investigate it before you do any more work on it. I know that I've got some of my suppliers have been talking to me about some new systems for softening water, or descaling water, I guess is a better terminology, without using salt. Always skeptical when I hear that, but these are good suppliers, so they say they got something in the works. So we'll see what they got. I have a water softener. Stop following the scheduled regen. I do it manually all the time. Okay. So the only thing with doing that is, it depends. Like, when you program a water softener, you program in how hard the water is. It should already be programmed with the information on how big it is. From there, it calculates how often it's going to regenerate. So, and if it's a metered water softener, it measures your water and then regenerates that way. So if you're regenerating manually, how often are you regenerating? Maybe you're regenerating too often and you're using too much salt. Maybe you're not regenerating often enough. How long is not often enough? You can't let it go for more than 14 days, okay? Because if you do, you're going to ruin the media inside, okay? Now, if you're regenerating every 3 or 4 days, that might be too often. So you're wasting salt. So I'm a big fan of setting it up properly and letting it do its job. So, but if it works for you, hey. Got one here from Fat Cobra. Hi, Gary. Any new products coming out that you're excited about? Yes. Like I say, I was at the water. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment. But yeah, I've got some new products I've got in the works. I'm excited about. Can't tell you anything about them yet because they're not ready yet. But when they are, you'll definitely hear about it. I always do a video about any new products, so check out the videos. We release a new video every week. These days we're releasing them Friday mornings, but yeah, you can definitely check that out. And Loud Thing 87. I bought my iron filter and water softener from you. Thanks. Thank you for your business. I really appreciate that. My parents' house has blue water now that they got rid of their iron softener. Do iron softeners remove copper? Iron softeners remove copper. No, they don't. So they were getting blue water. Let me read that again. They're blue water now that they got rid of their iron softener. It might just be that the scale is it's coming from the copper. That's where it's coming from. So something is, there's some kind of a reaction going on, maybe because of the high pH or something like that. Something like that's causing something that's happening in there. So it's hard to say what exactly. So if the pH is too high, then, if the pH is too low, but then it would be an acidic. So you really need to have the water analyzed there, and then from there we can make some recommendations. So I'm sorry I couldn't answer that question right away. David Smith. Where can I find a guide for proper programming of an iron buster tank? I believe mine might be incorrectly programmed. So the first place would be to check where you bought it from, because you know, iron filters, all water filtration stuff are sold under different names. Okay, so ours is the Hume brand name. Our iron filters FOC, which uses catalytic carbon; FOB, which uses berm; FOK, which uses K-Lux. But those are really our own names. Okay, so Iron Buster, I don't know what kind of media they use. I don't know a lot of things about it. So I would check with whoever the manufacturer is and try to find out. If you're stumped, if you can't get anywhere, you can always email us some pictures, info@watereastore.com, and then from there we'll help you try to figure out who made the valve and try to figure out what's going on there, and go from there. But it's going to take some time. And proper programming guide. Zilfan, is water filtered through fridge okay to drink? Depends. So let's talk first of all about what does a fridge filter actually do. So I just installed a mixed bed water softener 2 months ago on city water, considering a reverse osmosis system, but only if it's necessary. Love your videos. Yeah, so it depends what's in the water. Okay, so a fridge filter, some of them remove a bit of sediment, and some of them remove. Most of them remove chemicals like chlorine from the water, and that's really their claim to fame. They remove the chlorine from the water, make the water taste better, and they also make the water, like I say, make the water taste better. That's all they do, but they don't soften the water or do anything else. But if your mineral content is high going into that fridge filter, it's going to be high coming out of that fridge filter. So it really depends. I mean, I'm a big believer in reverse osmosis because it gets rid of 90% of the mineral content of your water, really cleans it up, but it gets rid of so much more. And a lot of the new videos I have coming out are about that. In fact, fluoride, big thing about fluoride. In fact, tomorrow Friday, yes, tomorrow I have a new video coming out about fluoride. And if you're on city water, I definitely encourage you to check that out. How do you get rid of fluoride from your water? Reverse osmosis. How do you get rid of pharmaceuticals and personal care products from your water, your city water? Reverse osmosis. And there's a whole lot more information coming about that. But on city, well, I wouldn't be on any water source without reverse osmosis, my personal opinion. The fridge filter will help, but that's all it's going to do. It's going to help. So keep those questions coming, folks. For those of you that already have questions, I'm going to answer them. Just going to talk a little bit about what I was doing for the last week. So I was gone last week. I was gone for 8 days, and in 8 days, I was on a plane 6 of those 8 days. And so what happened was I flew out of here a week ago, Friday? No, sorry, not last Friday, the Friday before. I flew out of here and I flew down to Dallas. And so what was I doing in Dallas? Well, I flew in and I did a live stream with Roger Wakefield. Now, if you haven't checked out Roger Wakefield's YouTube channel, I definitely encourage you to do. If you have any interest in plumbing or in the trades or anything like that, again, I've got a link in the description down below. I definitely encourage you to check that out. So I flew down to Dallas. So just so you know where I'm coming from, I'm north of Toronto. So I don't know, it's 1,400 or 1,500 miles. I flew down there on the Friday. Saturday morning, bright and early, we did a podcast together, and in the afternoon, we did this live stream. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. You see those two glasses in the foreground? There's bourbon in those glasses. This is the first time I've ever drank bourbon on YouTube. But anyway, that's what happened that day. So it was a really cool event. So then I was supposed to fly back that Saturday right after the live stream. The flight got canceled twice. At the last minute, they canceled the flight. I had to scramble and find a hotel and fly back a day later. Now it was Sunday. So Sunday morning, bright and early, my wife and I got a plane. We flew to New York City, and we had to get to Times Square by Monday afternoon. So we were in Times Square, and check that out. So why was I? Here's a picture of Cheryl and I in Times Square. I never felt the straw sticking out of my ears as much as I did when Cheryl and I were in Times Square. But anyway, so why were we in Times Square? Because I was asked to be on Good Morning America. Good Morning America has an afternoon show or noon show called GMA3. So I was asked to be on GMA3 to do a talk about water filtration. I was honored to be there. It was a great opportunity, but it was a scramble to get there. So you can see this is part of what was going on behind the scenes. Now, I've got a link to the actual show in the description down below. It's only about 4 or 5 minutes long, my segment of it. So, you know, if you want to check it out, I'd encourage you to do so. But you know, it's amazing what you see on these shows. You see the hosts and you see the people talking. And you know it's not a huge room, but the stuff that you see when you're on there, the cameras, the amount of cameras and the amount of people that are there behind the scenes, it's just overwhelming. But the people at GMA3 were so kind, and you know, to this water filtration guy for 100 miles north of Toronto in Canada, to let me be there and do the presentation. And here I am with Eva and Phil, the hosts of the show, and it was so great to. They really made you feel welcome. And so we taped this at 11 o'clock in the morning. We finished taping at 11 o'clock in the morning, and they had a big black car sitting outside waiting for us, and we had to jump in this car with our bags and hightail it through Times Square traffic to get to the airport, because our flight was leaving at 1 o'clock to fly to, well, we were flying to Las Vegas, but of course in the US you don't get direct flights, so we had to fly from New York to Detroit. We had an hour between flights to catch our flight to get down to Las Vegas for the Water Quality Association show. So then I spent the next few days at the Water Quality Association show, and I took some courses, and I checked out some new products, and I I spoke with did a lot of networking with a lot of different people, and a lot of great information I got there, which I'll be sharing with my videos in the upcoming videos. So a lot of stuff to take care of. So like I say, 8 days, 6 days on airplanes. It was exhausting, and but anyway, a lot of great information for you guys. So that's what I did. That's how I spent my week, and I'm glad to be back at work and get a rest. So let's see what I got here. Here. P. Gerald, I just bought a home with a water softener and RO system. Both are currently bypassed, and they have been sitting for at minimum 6 months to 2 years. Is it possible to resurrect, clean them? Do they need to be replaced? You know, that's a really good question. And unfortunately, to so many of these questions, the answer is it depends. However, I would say probably. You're probably going to be able to resurrect them, no problem. So I'd mentioned, you said a water softener and RO system. Yeah. So I've got a great YouTube video. If you can't find it, put a comment down below, and I'll include the link for you when I get a chance. But I've got a great YouTube video that shows you how to do res care to clean up the water softener. So I definitely encourage you to use that. The reverse osmosis system, again, I've got a great YouTube video that shows you how to clean and disinfect a reverse osmosis system, because you're definitely going to have to remove all those filters, disinfect that system, and replace all the filters. Now, the only problem is with that, if you look at the cost of a brand new reverse osmosis system compared to the cost of replacing all the filters and the membrane, you know, it's about 30 to 40% of the total cost is replacing those things. So if you've got any doubts, see, whenever something's bypassed, I'm always like, why is it bypassed, right? So people don't spend, you know, a lot, hundreds or even thousands of dollars on something and then bypass it if it's working perfectly, right? So I would do a little bit of investigation ahead of time. You don't want to spend too much money on these things just to find out that they leak or they got a crack internally or something like that. But to answer your question truthfully, yes, they can be resurrected. Thanks for your question. And LoudThing87, recently switched my city water from an iron filter and water softener to just a water softener. Water in pool turned blue. Do iron filters remove copper? Is that a problem? I don't think iron filters remove copper. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier. I've never heard of them doing that, and I can't see why they would. So I don't know. Sorry. Chubbs McGee, welcome. Best way to remove chlorine from city water. I currently have a disposable carbon filter, was looking for a long-term solution. Yeah, so there's such a thing as an automatic backwashing filter that has carbon in it if you've got chlorine. If you got chloramines, what's chloramines? Chlorine and ammonia used to disinfect water. Some cities are using that now. then you have to have one that's got catalytic carbon in it. So we've got our Hume automatic backwashing chlorine filter. We've got a Hume automatic backwashing chloramine filter. So that's the way to go. So the water flows through, it removes the chlorine or the chloramines from your water. It backwashes once a week to keep that chlorine and to keep that media inside fresh, and then it goes on from there. These things easily last 15 to 20 years. And after 15 to 20 years, you just throw them away? Nope. You can actually replace the media inside here, excuse me, and get another 10 or 15 years out of it, no problem. So that's definitely the way to go. On the city water, you know, then you don't have to mess around with those filters all the time. But thanks for that question. That's great. And if you need a link to either of those systems, just put a comment down below, and I'll add a link to our carbon block filter. Probably, yeah, like carbon block filter will work, but the only problem is that's not a long-term solution. I think that's what Chubbs was looking for, something that cleans itself. No. With the Dynamics 2 times 20-inch tubes and UV filter, and each filter has a 7 psi loss, would I therefore get a 14 psi loss across the system? No, you definitely wouldn't get that. I have that exact same ultraviolet disinfection system in my home, so you can't see it very well because Frankenstein's blocking it back here. But this is what we're referring to back here, is it has two 20-inch filters and then the UV light. So often we get that question, you know, if I install one of these in my home, how much is going to restrict the water flow? There's going to be a little bit of restriction, and you'll be a little bit of PSI drop, but you won't notice the difference. You know, in my home, like I say, I've got water softener, iron filter, 3-stage UV system, etc. We've got other customers that have a tannin filter on top of that, sometimes even an automatic backwashing filter on top of that. And does it restrict the flow? No. You really won't know the difference what you had before and what you had after. Unless the filters are dirty and they're clogged, then yes. But you won't notice the drop in pressure. You won't. No one does. What do you think of Pentair whole house systems? I think you're getting a carbon hard water system. Thank you. I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to. It sounds like what you're referring to is a water softener that has carbon in it. And it's called a mixed bed because it has two different medias inside there. I don't like them. I spoke about that a little bit earlier, and I had one before. It wasn't a Pentair one, but believe me, from here down, they're all pretty much the same. But I found that the carbon did not last very long. And so I had to replace the media in the whole thing, even though the water softener media was fine, but the carbon was worn out after, it wasn't very long, I think maybe 4 or 5 years, something like that. And we had a fairly small family then. It's only 2 of us now, but so me personally, I wouldn't recommend it. I'd get a separate automatic backwashing carbon filter and a water softener, and the water would flow through in that order. But thanks for that question. I live in Arizona with really hard water. Yeah, I keep hearing that about that in Arizona. There's definitely areas, I think Tucson is one, and I think there's definitely some others that have very hard water. We have very hard water here too, and it's very common to have a water softener here. And to extend the life of the water softener, it's always a good idea to remove the chlorine, and also to extend your life, it's always a good idea to remove the chlorine. So definitely encourage you to check that out. Peruno 666. I have a problem with the clock softener. It loses resin, and I found resin on filters at the water softener. What should I check first? Yeah, I think we answered that one already. You know, something is let go inside the tank, and it's passing some resin. If it's a little bit of resin, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's a lot of resin, you need to rebuild the tank. That's the short answer. Susan. Sold me an iron FOC, thank you. I only use about 50 gallons between regen, so I'm away quite a bit. Can I regen less often? Cheers, love your videos. Thanks for the question, Susan. Always good to hear from you. Can you extend the time a little bit more often? Yes, you can, okay? However, if you start having problems, then you're going to have to take it back. So I wouldn't go more than 5 days. I definitely wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't go more than 5 days. That's for sure. Now, one thing you can do to help the system is if you know you're going to be gone for more than 5 days, what I would do is I would regenerate it just before you leave. Regenerate it, shut off the water to your home. Then it can't regenerate because there's no water because you shut it off, and then go away. And it won't use any water while you're gone because you've shut off the water, and you won't compromise the media. It won't be as likely to compromise the media because you've shut off the water. So that's what I would do. But like I say, if you start having any problems, you start to get some of the iron coming through, and I know you have a lot of iron, that kind of thing, then you're going to have to go to back to a more routine cycle. But that's what when we go away for vacation or we're away for a couple of weeks or something like that, that's what we do. Regenerate the equipment, shut off the water, and leave. So thanks for the question, though, Susan. That was great. And again, thanks for your business. I appreciate it. David Smith. Last question. I have a well with a lot of sediment. Company installed 2 large 120-gallon each settling tanks before the neutralizer, iron oxidizer, sulfur tanks. Is there a better solution? Yeah, automatic backwashing filter is the way to go. We have been installing lots of these recently, and so they have a media inside. As the water goes through, it removes the sand from the media, and then it goes on from there. Once a week it backwashes to clean itself. So that's the way to go. If you're not sure where to find it, just add a comment down below, and I'll answer it with a link. They're called Hume Automatic Backwashing Sediment Filter. I guess it's pretty obvious, isn't it? But that's what they're called. And they come in different sizes. Now, we need to know the flow rate from your well pump. And so if you don't know how to calculate the flow rate from your well pump, I have a great YouTube video about that. Again, if you're looking for it. In fact, I might even already have it in the description down below, a link to that video. But if you can't find it, just put it in the comments and I'll add a link. Loud Things 87 says thanks. And Chris is saying, can a clack WS1 valve FOC filter be configured to use H2O2 in the regen process? Downside of FOC uses more salt with daily regen. Downside in FOC after a softener uses, the FOC should be before the softener. Yeah, I see what your question is. So your question is, because your FOC is after your water softener, you're using softened water in your FOC, so you're using up the capacity of your water softener by doing that. So you're asking that, well, my solution, and in my house, the FOC is before the water softener. So, and that's really where it should be, because if there's any iron in your water and that, you can use the FOC to get rid of it in addition to the hydrogen sulfide. So that's what I do. Does not removing tannins cause a problem with water heater or UV lights or any other issues? It's actually the opposite. So a UV light, it uses light to kill the bacteria, right? So the light has to shine through the water to be able to get to the bacteria. So any ultraviolet light that if you look at the specifications on them, it'll say what UVT percentage it's good for. In other words, what percentage of the ultraviolet light can pass through. So if you have brown water from tannins, not 100% of the ultraviolet light is going to pass through. Some percentage of it will only pass through. And I've seen water that hasn't been all that dark, and the UVT was less than 75%, which means that you'd have to significantly oversize the UV system for it to actually work. In terms of water heaters, no. We have run into the situation before where someone had a very old water heater. The inside of the water heater was totally coated with tannins. We put in a new tannin filter. It removed all the tannins coming into the home. But for the first while, they were getting brown water from their hot water because now that tannin-free water was absorbing the tannins on the inside of that hot water heater, and it was putting some of it out. Eventually, it cleaned it out. In fact, I think maybe eventually the customer actually had to replace the hot water heater with a new one. But no, it's the opposite. It's, like I say, it will work much better. So that's good. And Bruno666 Thanks. Well, you're very welcome. That's what we're here for, and we'll definitely do that. So let me just have a quick look here. How we're doing on our poll. Okay, so we had 25 votes on our poll. Wow, that's really great. I really appreciate that. And 32% were looking at tips and tricks from the pros. I hope you got some of those so far. Definitely keep those questions coming. Water filtration maintenance. Talked a little bit about that. We didn't talk about that a whole lot, maintaining your systems, but I think I talked to you about some preventative maintenance. And speaking about preventative maintenance, this is a surge suppressor. And I definitely encourage every single one of you that is watching this today to get a surge suppressor. It doesn't have to look like this. We don't sell them, so there's nothing in it for me. But the reason I want you to get one is, and I want you to plug all your water filtration equipment into that surge suppressor. Because what that's going to do, it's going to make sure that if you have brownouts or power fluctuations, that kind of thing, it's going to save your circuit boards. You'd be amazed how many circuit boards we sell, and replacement ones. And there's only one reason why you need to replace that circuit board. Is because you've had a brownout or there's something gone wrong with your hydro and it's fried that circuit board. So I definitely encourage you, if you get nothing else from this live stream today, is get a surge suppressor. And Chris, thank you so much for your videos and advice. You're certainly fulfilling a knowledge gap for do-it-yourselfers. That's what it's all about. And by the way, no one mentioned the shirt that I'm wearing here today, by the way. Do you see what it says? It says DIY or die. And Gary, are you selling shirts now? Actually, I am. We do have these available on our website. If you search under apparel, we've got a couple different sweatshirts and t-shirts and that kind of thing. If it's something that appeals for you, I definitely encourage you to go for it. I'd appreciate it. But like I say, for those of us that believe in being a do-it-yourselfer, I think it's a good thing, and I definitely encourage everyone for your do-it-yourselfers. I've got a question here from Axes and Alcohol. Hey Gary, how often do I need to regenerate my neck sand filter? 1.5 cubic foot. So a neck sand filter is that automatic backwashing sediment filter I spoke about a little bit earlier. So generally speaking, about every 5 days. That's what we typically recommend, and that's what the manufacturer comes out with. Now, if you're finding that after 3 or 4 days, your water flow is starting to slow down because it's starting to get clogged, or you're starting to get some breakthrough of some sediment coming through, then by all means set it for every 3 or 4 days. If you're noticing nothing after 5 days and you want to stretch it another day or something like that, by all means give it a try and see how that works out. Well, folks, very good. I appreciate everyone from watching. We've run out of questions here, and so I do new videos every week. Typically, they're released every Friday morning. I try to do a live stream toward the end of the month, usually on a Thursday night, the last Thursday of the month. And I definitely encourage you to check out my YouTube channel, Gary the Water Guy, and I'll see you in my next video.